Keith Hilson with the Schmidt Music Trombone Shop, back with another instrument review for you. And today I've got a very, very interesting version of a fairly common instrument, specifically the Yamaha 882O. We're used to seeing the Yamaha Xeno large bore tenor trombones in a lot of different settings. They've been around for almost 20 years, and of course they have a number of different varieties of the Xeno line. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that with the most popular Xeno models, Yamaha actually offers these with a cryogenic treatment. In case you're not familiar with the cryogenic idea, we're essentially freezing the instrument and then warming it back up. What does that do? Well, it depends who you talk to, but some people, anyway, feel that it affects the response, the openness, the feel of the instrument, the tonal color, the breadth of the sound, all of these different ideas. So, again, I've reviewed the standard 882O before, but never the cryogenically treated version. Is it going to make a difference? Well, I'll leave that to you to decide. I'm going to take a play. We'll talk about my experience with it afterward. I'm going to be playing all of this today on my trusty Bach 5G. So, as I mentioned, we are used to seeing, the Yamaha Xeno line of large bore tenor trombones and bass trombones, they've been around for almost 20 years. I remember back at ITF 2004, they made a big splash with a few of their new models. And again, they have a number of different varieties, whether it's the 881 straight tenor, the 882, with the closed wrap or 882O open wrap, and of course all of these in yellow brass and gold brass. And then, of course, a little bit later on, we had the 882OR, the orchestral model, again, available in yellow brass, gold brass there. So a lot of variety within that. But again, something that's just come on to my radar a little bit more recently here is the idea that Yamaha was offering in-house cryogenic treatments. Now, again, this idea of cryogenically treated instruments is not new. This has been around for quite a while here. In in case you're not familiar, the whole concept behind this is that you take a brass instrument and you take it and you slowly freeze it down to cryogenic levels. For example, a Yamaha takes their instruments down to -325 Fahrenheit, and then you slowly allow the instrument to warm back up. Usually takes 1 to 2 days, something like that there. So what is the end result of that? Again, it depends on who you talk to, but we know that in general in brass construction that there are a lot of inherent stresses put on the instrument, whether it's the metal itself, that as you're going through and as you are shaping it and hammering it and turning and doing all the and stretching and all these different things, you're changing the crystalline structure, you're changing what's happening within the metal itself, and there are inherent tensions with how the instrument is assembled. One of the things when you talk to very, very high-end custom makers, they'll tell you that they're very cognizant, aware of these tensions within the building, and they do everything they can to try to eliminate all of that. But regardless, there's likely to be some of that in place. Now, then we kind of go back to vintage instruments. And a lot of people feel that vintage instruments going back 40, 50, 60 years play differently, sound differently. They talk about them in very revered tones, that they feel more open, they're more responsive, they have more depth in the sound, what have you. The idea behind cryogenic freezing is that you are, in theory, helping the instrument to relieve these stresses that would have happened naturally over decades upon decades. Now, again, there are very different philosophies on this. There are a lot of people who say, yeah, it does make a difference. Some people say it makes a difference, I don't like it. Some people do like the difference. And then there's a segment of players says, I don't really notice a difference at all. And again, part of that's a question, well, what's actually changing? Some people feel that it's actually the metallurgy that changes. I've seen some really great conversations on Facebook and elsewhere lately talking about that, where very learned folks say, no, the metal can't change like that over that kind of time frame, but it's more about, again, relieving all the stresses and all of the braces and all of the ferrules, everything you've soldered together, brazed together. So again, different philosophies on all of that there. But at the end of the day, a lot of people do feel like it makes a difference, and it does give it more of a vintage feel. So in Yamaha's case, they do this work in their Atelier facility. In case you're not familiar with this, the Atelier project, this has been Yamaha's kind of experimental. So this is where they do all of their really handmade custom stuff. And so this happens out in Los Angeles, and they go through, again, clean the instruments all out, check them over, make sure that they are pristine, and then drop them 325, allow them to warm back up. What is the end result here? So I've always been a big fan of the Yamaha Xeno line, the 882, the 882O, the Geo, and the OR as well, but we're going to leave those because that's kind of a separate deal. So I've really, really liked them. I always describe them kind of in our shop as being one of the most accepted instruments. In other words, they seem like they fit a larger percentage of players than anything else. With that said, oftentimes I do find with more experienced players, the standard Xenos just don't quite have it. They feel a little tight. They feel like they're missing, for some players, they don't have quite the depth of sound that they're looking for, quite the complexity in the overtones, the nuance in the response. And so again, knowing what in theory the cryogenic treatment should do, I was very excited to put hands on this and find out, does it make a difference? In my opinion, yes, it does. It did, again, a lot of what I was hoping it would do. It felt more open to me. I felt like I was able to put more air through the instrument. It resonated a little bit freer when I did so. And what that allowed was, again, I thought a little bit more complexity in the sound. With the standard Xenos, whenever I try to do, especially some of the higher end orchestral excerpts where I'm really trying to go for this weight in the sound, oftentimes they fight me a little bit. This one, again, I could feel it working with me more. It was resonating freer. I felt like I had better control. It slotted easier. And again, I felt like the overall sound just had more weight and depth and color to it as well. And then when I was trying to go through and play a little bit lighter excerpts or, the Rochou, for example, again, it seemed very, very responsive, free. I had I felt an easier time moving between the partials, getting that smoothness I was looking for, but still with the accuracy as well. So all the way around, for me, it made a real difference that I like. Now, I can see this for some players who maybe aren't coming with it at the instrument with that little bit larger approach. I could see it maybe being a little bit too open. Again, that's one of the beauties of the standard Xenos, is that they are a little bit more efficient. But if you are looking for something to open all of that up a little bit, this is really, really cool. And again, for me, it is a reflection, a kind of a proof of concept of this idea of cryogenic treatment. It's one thing to say, okay, yeah, we know in theory it should make a difference, but putting it into practice, for me, it absolutely did. Now, again, my own opinion, everybody's got different thoughts about it. I noticed a difference with it, but again, I don't think it's going to be a difference for everybody. It's going to make a real difference for some folks. For other folks, they might like the other Xeno better, but really, really cool to see somebody like Yamaha thinking about this. And I always love Yamaha. They're always kind of thinking ahead. They're always thinking about what else can we do, and they're always experimenting, which I think is really, really neat. And this is a great example of this. So I hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any comments about what you heard, any questions about my experience, or maybe you have some experience with this model, please feel free to leave them in the comments. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, think about subscribing to our channel, become part of the community of viewers, share with that community. I always love to see all of those interactions. And of course, you can find the Trombone Shop on Facebook and Instagram as well. So as always, thank you very much for watching.